Good morning. I'm standing in Yerushalayim, overlooking the capital of Israel, the eternal homeland of the Jewish people. And today begins what is known as Bein HaMitzarim, between the straits, the 3 weeks of mourning for the destruction of the temple, which occurred exactly 1953 years ago, here in Jerusalem, when the Romans breached the walls of this city, and 3 weeks later, on the day of Tisha B'Av, burnt the Holy Temple down to the ground. And until this very day, over 1900 years later, we still mourn the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. But yet, in our generation, we merited in 1967 to be able to come back to this city of Yerushalayim and to see this city flourishing with life, with Jewish activity, with Jewish families, with schools, with yeshivot, is to live in a current state of miracle, to see the greatest prophecies being fulfilled before our very eyes. And the question is, how did we manage to return to this city almost 2,000 years after we were exiled from it? And so the Talmud tells the story that at the time of the destruction of the temple 1900 years ago, there was a great rabbi, his name was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was the head of the entire Sanhedrin, the 70 elders that ruled in Jerusalem. And when he saw the temple was going to be destroyed, that Rome was going to conquer Jerusalem, he met with Vespasian, the Roman emperor, and he said, I have one request. Give me the city of Yavne and its sages. Yavne was the academies of Torah study. And Vespasian said, fine, I'll let you keep that one city. And it says that when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on his deathbed, he was weeping. And his student said, why are you crying? And he said, I'm crying because I'm not sure which direction they're going to take me to heaven or to purgatory. And Rabbi Soloveitchik explains, why was he weeping? How did he doubt his own greatness? And how did he even think he would go to purgatory? And he explains that he was questioning his decision. Did I do the right thing by asking for the city of Yavne and its sages? Maybe I should have asked for Jerusalem. Maybe I should have asked for the Holy Temple to be spared. However, now in hindsight, 2020 hindsight, we see that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was correct for asking for Yavne. Because when he got the Roman Emperor Vespasian to sign the edict that Yavne should not be destroyed, he was actually unknowingly, Vespasian was signing the death warrant of Rome, that Rome would no longer be alive today, but Jerusalem and the Jewish people would. Because what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai understood is that as long as we study Torah as a Jewish nation, we are never destroyed. And therefore, as long as we maintain the sages and the scholarship and the Torah study, as a nation we are alive, and we will return ultimately to the city of Jerusalem. And that's what happened in our very day, in our very generation. But the lesson we have to think about for the next 3 weeks is, why was the temple destroyed in the first place? And our rabbis tell us it was because of sinat chinam, baseless hatred. There wasn't love amongst the Jewish people. They studied Torah, but not with love for one another, for our fellow man, for our fellow Jew. And therefore, the way we merit the full rebuilding of the temple will only be through unconditional, baseless love for one another. This land of Israel, and especially Yerushalayim, but Jews throughout the world, are renowned for their brotherly love, for their care, for their devotion, for the selfless sacrifice for one another. And there is so much love and so much unity and so much giving and caring for one another. But obviously there's not enough, because if there was enough, Mashiach and the temple would be rebuilt already. And therefore, Israel and Jews are known, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. And yes, we can disagree with one another. And yes, there's a lot of political disagreement here in Israel. But we have to remember that we could disagree, but with love. Just like in the Talmud, every page of the Talmud is filled with disputes, but it's always with love. So too, as Jews, we have to know that we have to love each other unconditionally. And even if we don't share a similar view, we still love each other. And this is something that we see prevalent in Israel, but we need more of it. We need to see the Jewish people loving each other as one people, like one body, like one organism, knowing that we're all intertwined and one with each other. It's a story that happened here in Yerushalayim. A little girl 12-year-old girl walked into a jewelry store and started looking through the jewelry cases. The owner of the shop was looking at her and said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yeah, that gold bracelet, how much is it?" And the owner of the shop looked at this 12-year-old girl and says, "Why do you want to buy that gold bracelet?" And the little girl said, "Well, I'll tell you, my mother died a number of years ago. And my big sister, who's 17, takes very good care of me like a mother. And it's her birthday this week, and I want to buy her a present." The shopkeeper says, "Well, how much money do you have?" And the girl takes out a little bag with money she's been saving, and she puts out all her money, her shekels, on the counter. The shopkeeper counts it up, and it's 56 shekel, which is about no more than $15. The shopkeeper says, "That's exactly the price of the gold bracelet." He takes the 56 shekels, wraps up the bracelet in a beautiful gift box with a wrapping and a bow, and gives it to her. The girl runs home happily, smiling. A few days later, a 7-year-old girl comes in and says, "I'm so sorry that my sister took this without paying for it. I want to return it." Shopkeeper realized who it was and says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, my sister came home with this bracelet, this gold bracelet from your store. Clearly she can't afford it. I don't know how she got it. I want to apologize and return it." The shopkeeper said, "I'm sorry, but your sister paid in full for the gold bracelet." And the girl said, "How could she have paid in full? She could never afford this beautiful gold bracelet." And the jewelry store keeper said, "Your sister paid in full for this bracelet. She paid with her full heart." When we pay with our full heart, when we give all of our heart, all of our love for one another, then God will grant us our ultimate prayers, when we will see the ultimate redemption and the fulfillment of all of our dreams, individually and collectively as a Jewish people. Have a meaningful fast day today, and let us spend the next 3 weeks deepening our connection and our love for one another. May we merit the ultimate redemption.